All right, you're very welcome along to The Snap. It's our brand new American football show. We're covering everything from NFL to the college game to, indeed, the local indigenous sport here and everything else that crops up in the world. If it involves pigskin, we're going to cover it. We'll probably do a bit of fantasy as well. So if you have any questions for us, you can email us here. thesnap@offtheball.com is the email address. You can just use the hashtag #TheSnap. Tweeting us is probably the easiest and most direct way. I know nobody actually uses email anymore, but look, we have one. We sorted out that email address. Don't worry about it. Ronan Mullen is here. Ronan, how are you?
All good, Jar. How are things?
Feeling pretty, smug about life as a Ravens fan?
I'm not sure. It's kind of it reminds me of being a Dundalk fan 10 years ago when we were the plucky underdogs, and then all of a sudden we're the best team in the land. And this is the same thing in the Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to get used to this, right?
Are we peaking too soon? Probably.
No, I don't think so. I think the peak is going to come in about 5 years' time when you win 4 or 5 successive Super Bowls, because you've got the most unstoppable force in world sport at the moment.
Yeah, and the defence is pretty good as well. I don't know if that's because Lamar is letting them get a good bit of rest with all these long drives, but it's an impressive unit at the moment.
It helps. We've also got Cian Fahey with us this morning, live from somewhere plush. Cian, how are you?
I'm not sure about plush. Out of the two of us now, one of us is looking plush and one of us isn't. You look like you're dressed for a christening is a new name in this show. Is that what it is?
Or a funeral. Who knows? We'll see in the next half
or
hour
a
or so.
Appearance.
Come here. You're jet setting. I don't like to pry, but, normally we see and there's like a dog in the background.
Yeah, well, I'm over here in London, and you're actually lucky we started this at this time because literally 90 seconds ago they were testing all the fire alarms, so it could have been a lot more entertaining if we had started 15 minutes earlier. Well, so, sorry to disappoint.
The bell might be tolling for the 10-1 record of the 49ers. I was queuing for my lunch about 25 minutes ago, and the guy in front of me had the exact same 49ers beanie hat that I was like, I've got the only one of these in the country. There's nothing worse than realising that somebody else is like dug deep on the deep recesses of eBay to find something, and it's like, you've got the same thing. And also bumping, literally right in front of me in the lunch queue.
I know. How do you think?
You mentioned that, but they sell them everywhere now.
Well, they didn't when I was back when it was not profitable. Back in the Chip Kelly era, back before that even. The Jim Tonsula era, it was not profitable nor cool to be a 49ers fan. And now here we are, every Johnny come lately, he's jumping on the bandwagon.
Same with the Ravens, where no one had a Joe Flacco jersey.
No, that's true. Fair enough.
Now there's going to be plenty of Lamar jerseys going around.
Yeah. Did you have a Joe Flacco jersey?
I sure didn't.
Did you? No, okay.
I sure didn't.
Right, okay. Cian, I think, in the sake of spirit of openness and stuff, you're a reformed Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Isn't that fair?
Yeah. Well, in 2003, I was like, I need to find a team, and I picked them or was 2004? No, 2004. And that was like January, and they just lost the AFC Championship game to the Steelers, or to the Patriots. And then the next year they won the Super Bowl, and I was like, right, well, that's done. I don't need to do this anymore. I've got what I need. So I just started covering all 32 teams instead. Didn't really follow one.
Okay, so you're an innocent man, basically, is how you would frame that these days.
Yeah, but I do have a lot of jerseys back home that I was literally just clearing out the other day. And I found one of these AFC Eric Berry, what do you call them? Remember near the original league where they had the different logos? And it was actually really cool. And I got it in Tala somewhere. Someone was selling it off cheap. So you can find cool stuff like that in Ireland, actually. And
did you keep the jerseys? Because Mark McCadden from the Star was tweeting a picture of the jerseys that he found in his attic. And it was like the old... himself and his brother had like all the Ireland and a bunch of other Man United and Liverpool jerseys from the early 90s, which is like a very rich treasure trove of stuff now that you probably earn an absolute fortune for. Did you just bundle yours together and chuck them in the local recycling bin?
I have them at home. I have about... I would say I have 18 or 19 of them at home. So I could do something with them. I don't know. I don't do anything with them now. So I don't know. Maybe I'll send them in to you and you can hang them up somewhere in the background for this show.
Well, send us pictures at least. That would be cool. Some retro stuff. We've got Ronan's Pick 6. We got a fancy new gizmo in the corner that is... I don't even know how to explain it. What is it?
Yeah, this is the Pick 6, Jar. I feel like Colin Kaepernick and the likes have nailed down all the good puns, so we're going with the Pick 6. It's kind of an arbitrary list, uncoordinated list of talking points from around the NFL.
In beautiful handwriting as well.
Yeah, that's Enda Call's work, producer for the Stars. And number 1 on the Pick 6, Jared. Happy Thanksgiving, ?
It's a pretty happy Thanksgiving for the Saints, because the Saints are still a real team. No?
This is a team that maybe peaked too soon, I'm not sure. It doesn't feel quite like when Peyton Manning's arm turned into a noodle, but I'm not sure if Drew Brees is quite the quarterback of yore.
But it turns out you don't need Drew Brees when you've got Taysom Hill, right, Cian?
Oh God, Taysom Hill. I wish Sean Payton would stop with this nonsense. I know it works against Falcons and teams like that, but he's a glorified special teamer, and you put him in, you take the ball out of Drew Brees' hands, and it's like, how is this helping you? It's helping you in the sense that Brees doesn't have to do everything, I guess, and you don't have Mark Ingram there anymore, who has been subtly a big loss to them. I like Latavius Murray, but Mark Ingram's been phenomenal in Baltimore, and taking him away from Alvin Kamara, it's thrown it all out a little bit. I dislike this Taysom Hill stuff because he can't throw the ball. His inability to throw the ball means the defense or better defenses will be delighted when he comes on the field and they don't have to worry about Breeze anymore.
I think it's Sean Payton's way of saying, look at me, I can get this gimmick player into action. And he is effective. He does affect the game in positive ways, but he's not.
So if anybody's unfamiliar with what happened last night, he was responsible for 2 touchdowns and a blocked punt. That's like...
He's all around
this guy's earning his cash. Whatever they're paying him, he's earning it.
Look, he's going to be valuable in games like that where it's the Falcons. And that block punt was probably... Like, the funny thing about it, the block punt was probably his best play of the game. But he's going to talk about the offensive stuff. The first touchdown run is anyone would have run that in. It's an opening it's a parting of the Red Sea where the Falcons defense doesn't react properly when Kamara motions out wide, and they're left with a numbers advantage in the middle. And it's literally a 5-foot hole, a 6-foot hole in the middle of the defense. Anyone's going to score that. That's got nothing to do with Taysom Hill, really. That's just he happened to be the one carrying the ball. So I don't think it's a guy you should be usually excited about. He's just kind of a bit of a gimmick. He's something that's kind of fun, I guess.
What should we be excited about? Because the Saints are now 10-2 and they're pacing the NFC. They're looking on course at the moment for a home bye. Obviously, the 49ers have a similar record at the moment, but they're playing the Ravens this week, and then they've got to go to New Orleans next week. So the road to the home bye runs through the Superdome at the moment.
It is kind of funny because Ronan just mentioned it there a while ago. With the Saints, they're kind of like, is there anything to point to that we're usually excited about? Like, it's not like there's an interesting storyline with this team. It's not like there's anything. Like, you can talk about the Bears, you can talk about the Eagles, they've all struggled, you can talk about the Ravens, you can talk about 49ers emerging. With the Saints, they're just kind of there, and we know what they are. They've been there. Michael Thomas is obviously phenomenal. You saw last night the Falcons were double-teaming him a little bit, and he still gets open, he still works, he still finds opportunities, even if he didn't have a huge game. But you then come back to a guy like Ted Ginn, who's been there for a long time. Jared Cook dropped that touchdown up the right seam last night, but also had a big play when he caught the ball out wide in the curl route. So you have guys there who you know what you're going to get. And to me, that can be a positive. But it can also be a little bit of a negative because you look at Breeze, he's that old. You look at the defense. Marshawn Lattimore, he looked more interested in fighting people last night than actually being an effective cornerback. And he's been an effective cornerback this year, but he hasn't been the superstar we were all trying to make him be over recent years. Cameron Jordan's still outstanding on a defensive line. They've got is it Marcus Davenport, the other rookie who's been developing. Kiko Alonso's in the middle of the defense. Another guy to me who, like Taysom Hill, he might have these highlight plays, but he's not someone I'm building a defense around. He's not someone who's going to be trusted in coverage and be effective in coverage. So I'm not excited about them, but I think they're going to be a playoff team. I think, funnily enough, like the NFC right now, it feels like it's the 49ers and then everyone else. Whereas previously, when we were entering this season, you thought the Saints, the Eagles, the Bears were all going to be there. And then you had the Seahawks as well, who are coming back. You had the Vikings, who we thought were going to be much better. And to a degree, they're still there. But it feels like the NFC is now the easier route to the Super Bowl than the AFC, which is surprising to hear myself say, to be honest.
Yeah, I still think all those teams are very level. I know the 49ers blew out Green Bay last week, but I'm still not convinced that... So I think they're going to get beaten this week badly, and then it'll be interesting to see what happens when they end up going up against the Saints in the Saints building. And if they come through that and they win that, then fair enough. But equally, the Seahawks look fairly amazing. Or certainly Russell Wilson looks fairly amazing at the moment. We'll come back to that in a minute. But you're saying that there's no real danger then of this team, who is a playoff team. I think they might even be guaranteed a spot in the playoffs at this point after that win. Or certainly there's a chance that they will be by the end of the weekend, of them winning the Super Bowl, that they're not quite good enough.
Well, I don't think that's the case. I think what I'm really conveying with the Saints is they're boring. Like, if you look at they're a well-run team right now, and they're a settled team. And if you compare them to a team who played last night, and I assume we're probably going to get to this later, so I won't go too far into it. But if you compare them to the Cowboys yesterday, the Cowboys are a fascinating, really interesting team because of all the turmoil that's going on there. But on the actual field, they're a bit of a mess, and they don't really know what they're doing, and Jerry Jones is crying and all that kind of stuff after games. But with the Saints, it's kind of been settled. Like, Sean Payton's been there so long, you know what you're doing. Drew Brees has been there so long, you know what you're doing. My big concern with them coming into the year was that Drew Brees has been poor at the end of the year over the last 2 seasons. It's possible that the thumb injury actually helps them, that he didn't throw the ball as much while injured. To me, it's a difficult thing to argue. Being injured when you're older is rarely ever a positive, but it might be. And the beautiful thing for the Saints, and if I was a Saints fan, I'm jumping on this bandwagon, if I was thinking about looking for a team, they've got Drew Brees right now, and then they've got Teddy Bridgewater coming next year. So this is a team that's going to sustain success, even if they're not peaking this year for the Super Bowl.
All right, briefly, what about the Cowboys? Beaten 26-15 yesterday by the Buffalo Bills, who are like suddenly 9-3.
Yeah. And the Cowboys haven't beaten anyone this year with a winning record. And yet, if they go through the rest of the regular season and beat all the teams with losing records, they'll go 9-7 and they'll get into the playoffs.
Well, they'll win their division.
Yeah, so that's the wrinkle of the system where even lesser teams can qualify, even when there's better teams on better records. It's just an anomaly. I remember the Seahawks went 7-9 a few years ago.
Carolina Panthers.
So it happens, like. But it's funny you mentioned the Saints and the Cowboys, because I'm sure Jerry Jones will be giving come-hither eyes to Sean Payton, trying to get him to come over to Dallas. But I don't know whether that would even be a good fit. It would be a bit like Mourinho and Daniel Levy, where like both of them want to run the ship, and I don't know if it would be a natural fit. But they've been going on about that for a long time. Yeah,
Payton's big enough and good enough and has a Super Bowl, and you think he might be able to put up with Jerry and the Sun. How bad are Dallas at the moment, Cian?
Jason Garrett every single week is getting massively outcoached, and people on Twitter think I'm a Cowboys fan because every single week I'm waking up, I'm frustrated at the Cowboys, and every single game I'm frustrated at the Cowboys. And it's not that I'm a Cowboys fan, it's that they're a team that has a huge amount of talent, and their game plans every single week are just hugely flawed. You look at this game last night, and Josh Allen played pretty well last night. I think that was the best game of his career, and it was his first game on primetime, and Ronan mentioned it there that the Cowboys haven't beaten a team with a winning record all year. The Bills' first game, win against a team with a winning record all year was last night against the Cowboys. So this is kind of an anomaly that happens. Either way, that was going to be an narrative coming out of that game. But from the Cowboys' point of view, like, they have all of the pieces on the field. They have so much talent on the field. But you look at the way they approach games from the coaching point of view. It's not just that they always punt the ball and they always kick field goals instead of actually being more aggressive or making the smarter decisions. It's also that the game plans aren't right. Against Josh Allen, you're meant to play a contained defensive line. You're not meant to go crazy and try and rush after him and rush upfield and give him scrambling and running lanes. You're meant to force him to stay in the pocket and make him diagnose coverages and throw the ball into tighter windows. And the Cowboys did the complete opposite of that. For Josh Allen's rushing touchdown last night, a defensive end comes hard off the edge. The left defensive tackle goes inside because he crosses the face of the right guard. So suddenly there's this space for Josh Allen to step right into and run through. And then Sean Lee had started initially close to the line of scrimmage and turned him run deep. So now the one guy in position to actually run and tackle Josh Allen before he reaches the end zone is running in the opposite direction. And that's just something you should never do against a guy who's able to run but isn't necessarily able to pass very well.
So that's bad coaching, right?
Awful coaching.
But it's not Garrett. That's the defensive coordinator's job. Surely Garrett's going around, what are you? Come on.
It's a systemic issue with the Cowboys because it's happened for so many years under Garrett. Offensively, they've always been that problem of, hey, we have to give the ball to Zeke. We always have to run. We have to do these specific plays. Like the way you judge coaching in the NFL for me is you always look at Belichick and then you compare. You don't expect them to be Belichick, but you understand what Belichick does to make it work and what Belichick does to win games. Belichick recognizes your weaknesses, adjusts his game plan, focuses on your weaknesses, going to make you play a game you don't want to play. Jason Garrett, every single week, no matter who the opposition is, will run the same offense and run the same defense. And that just does not work.
Okay, let's move on because the Cowboys get far too much airtime all around the world for whatever bullshit reason. Anyway, so we might combine 2 and 3 a little bit. This is the perfect week for us to restart this show because, as we've already outlined, Ronan is the resident Ravens fan and I'm the resident 49ers fan. And these are the two best teams in football and they're playing at 6 o'clock on a Sunday in Ireland, which is like the perfect fixture. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, it's perfect. And if yesterday wasn't too appetising, like the Bears and the Lions, which is probably the game most people would have seen, was a bit like a slow bicycle race where one team just stayed up and got over the line. So this is going to be a cracker. I was listening to Earl Thomas during the week. We might play this clip here. He was asked if this could be a potential Super Bowl matchup later down the line.
An outside narrative this week is that this could be a Super Bowl preview. What do you make when you hear talk like that?
Super Bowl preview? You think the 49ers going to the Super Bowl? It could be. Let's see. We just go out there and try to play the best football we can possibly do. And when the Super Bowl comes, whoever we play, they're going to be in trouble.
So he's pretty confident that the Ravens are going to be there, Jer. Friend of the show, Earl Thomas.
Friend of the show, Earl
He was
Thomas,
sitting
yeah.
in this chair, I believe.
He was, yeah.
Nice guy.
Made a bit of news, nice bit of news when he was in with us. Got us a little bit of notoriety.
He's not quite.
Rex Ryan said literally nothing.
Oh yeah.
Basically, he was like,
Yeah.
He was a hype man who couldn't give us anything.
It's funny, like
Real quiet and reserved. Was like, he would kill you.
Yeah.
And he'd be nice about it.
I can't wait for the 30 for 30 on the on that Legion of Boom. My God, like Richard Sherman. Kind of bit back at Thomas when this comment was put to him, just saying like we'll see about that basically.
They're buddies though. They were at each other's weddings and stuff. They're actually properly hanging out, you know.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of the Ed Reed Ray Lewis dynamic, where one of them is very quietly spoken, reserved. That would be Ed Reed.
I was going to say.
And Earl Thomas in this situation, whereas he's arguably better in his position, excuse me, than Ray Lewis ever was in his position. But Ray Lewis was the bombastic one who was front of house all the time, and Richard Sherman similarly. He's a very good player, but his personality almost trumped his ability at times. But he's definitely come to the fore this season, and it's a great matchup. I must say the Ravens secondary, a lot's been made of Lamarkable, and the Patriots secondary being exceptional, which it is. But I think a lot of the sacks the Ravens are getting this season are coverage sacks because they don't have the pass rushers of yesteryear, but they can just cover everybody back there. Marcus Peters has been an unbelievable addition.
It worked out pretty well from straight from the get-go, but some of that might be a fluke. Some of that's because I was reading during the week that he has somebody he trusts. He has somebody who trusts him in Earl Thomas to let him jump the routes, as they say. Cian, why suddenly have the Ravens got a defence that is championship calibre when at the start of the year they were coughing up points to Baker Mayfield and his collection of dilettantes?
Well, a lot of that was they were blowing coverages, and Tony, I can't think of his name right now. Tony Jefferson. Yeah. Tony Jefferson, was starting alongside Earl Thomas at the time, and he got injured, I believe, or he got benched. Either way, he's out of the lineup, and he was actually blowing coverages quite a bit, and he was getting out of position quite a bit. And it wasn't just him, but there was different problems, especially in that Browns game. Defensively, the defensive front seven has been better. Judon has been better over recent weeks, I think. Brandon Williams had missed time in one of their losses, and he's been healthy. Defensively outside has kind of been the changeover where you've got Marcus Peters come in, where Jimmy Smith's been healthy, and where Marcus Humphrey is arguably the best cornerback in the NFL right now. He's not necessarily a Darrell Revis type who is shutting everyone down all the time, but he's a guy who has a big impact in different ways. He's extremely physical, extremely talented, and been a rising star since he came in the league from Alabama. I think, though, like if you are going to talk about this defense, it's insulting to talk about anyone without starting with Earl. Like you, Jerry, you're a massive 49ers fan. Ronan, you're a massive Ravens fan, and I am Earl Thomas, a super fan. Since he's been in the league, like him and Richard Sherman, like because it was in the earlier stages of my career, I guess, so there's some sentimentality to it. But they were kind of guys I recognized very early in their careers, and were like, yeah, these two are going to be superstars, and for the very reason that they became these Hall of Fame players, and I got to watch it happen over the years very closely, it's become something I've massively appreciated. Because one of the things you notice, and I talked about this at Marshawn Lattimore previously, a lot of cornerbacks in the league over recent years have been superstars for a couple of games, superstars for 8 games, superstars for a whole season. Only 2 have sustained it consistently, Richard Sherman and Darrell Revis, no one else. And Richard Sherman is only coming off an Achilles tear. And Richard Sherman himself will turn around and tell you, yeah, Earl Thomas is the best player in that secondary. And Richard Sherman isn't someone who's like going to say these things blithely or say these things just because someone was their teammate. Earl ran that secondary in Seattle, and he's probably doing the same in Baltimore. Joel Anderson, who used to work for ESPN, who currently works for Slate, he did a feature on Earl Thomas years ago, and it was that quote that you heard kind of just prolonged, where he's talking to you in a very specific tone. He's not really saying anything that sounds especially outrageous, but then he's subtly making you realize, yeah, this guy is an assassin. Like the idea that we're going to be in the Super Bowl, the 49ers might be there. If we have to, whoever we have to play, we'll beat them. And there was another story that Doug Farrar, who used to work for Sports Illustrated, and he was doing a feature with Richard Sherman, and he's in Seattle. So he was walking around the Seahawks facility, and he went into, they had a room booked to do a film piece together, and they went into the room, and Earl Thomas was sat there doing film, and Sherman just said to him, hey, what are you up to? And Earl Thomas said, oh, I'm doing film. And Sherman, without even saying, oh, we've got this room booked or anything, or we need to do this feature, just said, okay, didn't even say anything apparently, just turned around and said, that's the guy leading here, so that's the guy who makes the decision. So Earl Thomas is on the field, a Hall of Fame player. He changes defenses the way more than anyone else in the league, really changes it more than Aaron Donald. That impact he has where he can cover that amount of ground and he shuts down the middle of the field is incredible. But off the field, apparently, he's everything that you get, except there's no fanfare and no one really talks about it because that's the guy he is.
The leadership group in the Ravens is very noticeable as well. Like Mark Ingram, Cian mentioned earlier, as much as he's been such an impactful player on the field, it's what he's doing in the dressing room. And similarly, Lamar, while like coming out of college, the running back stuff notwithstanding, there was some talk that maybe he wasn't the best communicator. But you look at all his teammates after the games coming up, giving him all these plaudits, and they're playing for him. The defence doesn't want to let him down because he's doing so well almost. So for such a young guy, 22 years of age, he's really become a leader of this team.
Yeah,
now that you mention Ingram, there's another clip from another press conference recently where he's talking about Lamar being the MVP, and you've got a couple of sideline clips. Actually, the Ravens have been great soundbites all year. Yeah. There's a couple of soundbite clips where John Harbaugh keeps going up to Lamar Jackson saying, "Do you understand how important you are? Do you understand that you're going to be a legacy for kids, that you're changing the way this sport is played, the way this game is going to be?" And Lamar's just sat there like, and this isn't what he actually says, but the attitude of it is, will you shut the fuck up? I'm trying to go win this game right now. He does not care at all about that. He's just focused on getting the result done.
He must be doing it for a reason. He must be trying to give him self-confidence. Because there is definitely a humble nature to Lamar, which, you know, at some point you don't want your quarterbacks to be too humble because they're going to, with 2 minutes left, need to win a Super Bowl. And at that point they need to go, I'm doing the right thing here and everybody's come with me. But it seems like he's got that down.
But he's hugely confident, inbuilt confidence, and we don't have to. We're going to come back to Lamar every week, Jerry, if I have my way.
We are, and I think that's fine.
Me too.
As a 49ers fan, it's really annoying that Lamar has emerged just this year. If he could have just had like one more season, because I think the 49ers could probably deal with Kansas City. I think they could probably deal with the Patriots, but I just don't think that they're going to be able to deal with the Ravens, and that's bringing back horrible flashbacks for all the Niners fans from the Super Bowl in New Orleans.
I do think there's a because you mentioned Lamar being humble. There's a great Klay Thompson quote when he's talked about how humble Steph Curry is, and Klay simply says, "Have you seen the shots he takes? He's not humble." That's the same thing I'd say about Lamar. Have you seen the plays he makes? He's not humble.
It's a power of imagination that he has that very few athletes in the world, in any sport, have at the moment. Very briefly, because I was going to do these together, but we didn't really get too much of the 49er stuff there. As a Niners booster, my concerns would be that no one has played well against this version of the Ravens so far. When they lost the games, they weren't this good. The defence wasn't there. Marcus Peters wasn't there. They hadn't put all the pieces together, and they put all the pieces together. So I think it's going to be a fairly routine victory for the Ravens this weekend, to be honest.
Yeah, well, what I would say is if the 49ers see them again in the postseason, they might have a better chance, because you'll remember the Chargers last year got beaten in their own building. Not that that's a huge home advantage, but the Ravens went there, took care of them pretty easily. Then a couple of months later, came back around in the playoffs, and Lamar had no answer. So when teams get a good look, and we know Kyle Shanahan, very, very bright guy, and he's going to have his team set up accordingly. So, and one thing I will say about the 49ers on offense and defense, they're so fast in every facet of the game, which is a really noticeable thing. It jumps off the screen. Yeah,
well, they're built for speed, is what Kyle Shanahan said this week, and so he was concerned about the weather. I'm just going to check it there. It's going to rain apparently on Sunday at 9 degrees Celsius and lashings of rain.
They won't like that.
But then he was like, it's going to slow down Lamar too, right? So very quickly, Cian, what do you think of the 49ers so far? I know you're a Jimmy G hater. I know you hate Jimmy G because he's so good looking and so good at American football, and you didn't call it. That's fine, I forgive you for that, but I know you hate Jimmy G.
Mostly just jealous of his hair. I think you've seen he's had I've kind of talked about Garoppolo over and over again. I think specifically for this game, it's not really about Garoppolo, because I don't think they're going to keep pace with a Ravens team that's looked like it has in recent weeks. But the key to this game for me is you saw Aaron Donald didn't have any impact in the Rams game, and that's because Aaron Donald's tendency is to go upfield and penetrate upfield, and the Ravens will simply let you go upfield and run right past you. The defensive line of the 49ers has been overwhelming opponents this year because they have that ability, like Aaron Donald. They've got guys at every spot who can penetrate through the offensive line, get upfield, and disrupt the design of plays. The way this game is going to be decided is if that defensive line can play more disciplined and be more lateral movement, be more diagnosing rather than penetrating and disrupting, they'll have some element of a chance. Otherwise, I don't know if I'm just a Ravens homer or just how highly I think of this team, but I've been picking them at minus 13.5 each week, and it's very rarely come back to haunt me as far as I can remember this year. So I really, really like this team, and I think it's the best team in the league by far. I think the 49ers are a phenomenal team as well. I think they're going in the right direction. My concerns about the quarterback will linger for a while.
Is the line 6.5? Is that what it is at the minute?
I don't know what it is. I'll adjust them all to 13.5 either way.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Okay, let's move on. LA is next on Ronan's pick 6. Is it that Sean McVay has feet of clay?
It's also the Chargers, that's a case of failure to launch. It was a bad move in the first place. It's just not going to work out. The Rams is something to keep an eye on for fans and non-fans, because this could really blow up in a big way, because they've really gone in win now mode, and they almost did win back then in the last Super Bowl. But you look at some of the wages they're paying, and they're moving into that building, and I can understand wanting to have a bit of star power going in, but I think Goff is going to be the biggest cap hit next year, and he's not at the level.
No.
And
but you had Sean McVay, who's a genius, who can scheme anything.
They paid Todd Gurley too early. Aaron Donald is obviously justifiably well paid, but there's just so many pieces in that team where you're like, this is really going to come back to haunt them, and I'm just not sure. Sean McVay has somehow developed his own coaching tree, even though he's only like 17 years old himself. But you just wonder, is he all he was cracked up to be? I'm sure he is, but
yeah.
Let's just see.
There's a similarity here between Chip Kelly's Eagles and Sean McVay's Rams. It's not to say that Sean McVay and Chip Kelly are the same. I think Sean McVay is a very, very good coach, and I think he will continue to be a very good coach. But the similarity between the two teams is the offensive line quality just dropped off a little bit, and that's had a knock-on effect on the way the scheme works and the way the rest of the offense works. And the quarterback quality isn't good enough to adjust for it and to compensate for it. Overall, you've kind of summed up the Rams perfectly there. They've sold everything out for this year. They've sold everything out for the short term. I think a lot of those moves made a lot of sense up until the Jalen Ramsey move. Jalen Ramsey's a great player, but what they gave up for him is a crazy amount. And the other part of this is he does not have a long-term contract yet. So if he turns around to them and says, well, I'm not going to sign for you unless you give me 25 million a year, 30 million a year, they're going to have to say, oh, no, we can't give you that, so we're going to have to let you leave. And then suddenly they've given up 2 first-round picks for nothing. Like, this is a major, major problem and a major corner they've painted themselves into. And it would not shock me if, at some point in the near future, Sean McVay goes, I'll just go somewhere else and start over. Because he can easily do that. Everyone else there is tied in. He can easily just go, because he'll get any job he wants outside of the Patriots, basically.
Cowboys?
Or other Ravens.
If you're Jerry Jones, you're looking at that and going, yeah, I want a bit of that.
But if you're Sean McVay, you're looking at that and thinking you want a bit of that.
Oh, come on. It's the biggest job in football, surely. Like, it is legitimately the biggest, most valuable team with, like, and if you're the new shiny thing, bear in mind, right, look at how badly Jason Garrett has coached and look at how long he's kept the job. So if you are a football coach, surely you're looking at that and going, okay, so I have job security, guaranteed. I have the ear of the owner and his son, which is obviously the most important because they've come looking for me. Would you not be touting for that job?
I don't know. It's a shot to nothing for Sean McVay, because I think he's built his reputation very quickly to a level where even if it went badly in Dallas, he'd get another job. But like, Jason Garrett's kept that job for so long because he's Jerry Jones' plaything. Jerry Jones is basically calling all the shots, and he's like a pawn. Whereas Sean McVay's not going to stand for that. So it would be, I'd love to see it.
You just have to sweet talk him. It's like, oh yeah, Jerry, that's a great idea that I have to do this thing that you had first. That's how that works.
And I don't think someone who's at Sean McVay's level wants to deal with that with anyone. You look at Jim Johnson as well. Like, when he was there prior, when the Cowboys last had whatever amount of success they had, the reason they got rid of him was because Jerry wanted to have more control and more input. And that's kind of the concern. That's why he keeps Garrett, and that's why he's in tears last night when people are talking about possibly moving on from Garrett.
I missed that.
And again, we're somehow talking about the Cowboys again.
That was after my bedtime. Yeah, well, because Sean McVay and the feet of clay thing. So he doesn't have feet of clay is the conclusion here? No?
Oh no, it's still a Sean McVay guy.
Okay, all right. Kickers can't kick. What the hell is going on with kickers in the league at the moment? It's a very, very important job. They get paid a handful of magic beans, and the situation is so dire that when you get a few injuries or an appendectomy, you've got to go back to Kai Forbath.
I know, and I don't know if it's because I watch Justin Tucker every week and he's Mr. Automatic, but every time I watch any other game, I'm just watching these guys. That Dallas game yesterday, it was like, who could take the worst field goal competition? And I don't know. Like, this is the first year in a long time where the percentage of successful kicks has regressed. Like, if you chart the decades, it goes up by like 5% every decade. This one, it's actually come back down, so I don't know what's going on.
If you're a 6'4" Gaelic footballer who's being approached by Aussie rules, what are you doing with your life? Go to those camps for kicking.
Like, we know the apocryphal Ronan O'Gara Miami Dolphins story.
Totally made up.
I'm beginning to think that might not be a bad idea.
Well, I mean, who knows?
La Rochelle, or does he want to go to live in Dallas instead?
Yeah, Cian, what the hell?
Isn't Isn't it amazing that JJ Hanrahan at the weekend can hit that conversion from out wide in the corner? And yeah, the surface of the balls are different. The American footballs are narrower. The surface area to connect with your foot is different, so it's tougher. But isn't it amazing that JJ Hanrahan can hit that conversion from that narrow angle, from somewhat of a distance as well? And American football kickers struggle from straight in front of the goals. I'm very much someone who hates oversimplifying stuff, and I probably go too far in the opposite direction and talk about too much of the little details and stuff. But kicking in the NFL is discussed like it's this incredibly complex thing. It's not. It's basically if in rugby, if we always move the ball inside and said kick from here all the time, all you have to do is hit it from this same spot every single time. And I don't understand. Well, for one, I do understand it because Americans grow up playing sports like basketball and hockey and football where none of them even have the coordination to run up and kick a ball the way people who grow up playing soccer do. Like Odell Beckham played soccer when he was younger. He's very comfortable kicking a ball. He can do stuff that you would see people out in the street in Ireland do. Kids who are 14, 15 playing five, something you could do playing five-a-side. Americans see that and they're like amazed. They think, oh my God, he could have been a professional, because they don't grow up with this kind of movement, with this kind of action. And I think that bleeds into their kickers because you have these guys coming in and they're taught the very specifics of every little movement you've got to do to kick a ball, whereas everyone over here has grown up just kicking the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't think about it.
Wisniewski, the punter that the 49ers drafted in the fourth round, a fourth-round drafted punter, has exactly the same stats as the guy who they had undrafted on the team last year. However, the guy that the Patriots drafted in the fifth round is like top of the league in terms of punting. So there's definitely, I'm sorry, the point about Wisniewski was he was an Aussie rules footballer, didn't make it, went off, trained for a couple of years, came through the college system, and I think he's 27. So like if you're a 17-year-old Irish person out there who can kick a ball, get out one of those American footballs, get the tee, get practicing, send the tape around to every second division and first division college in America and go off and have yourself a time. No?
Absolutely.
Why don't Scottish lad for the Browns?
Is he any good?
Yeah, he's very good.
Yeah, so he's constantly getting a 9 in fantasy. Prick, he's not on my team.
He moved over to America. I heard a story recently. He moved over when he was in his teens and he had no interest in the sport. He just picked it up because he was going to like a community college. And it was so easy for him, basically, he became a pro.
Cap out, question mark. I think we can erase the question mark. I think we could have erased the question mark as soon as he kneeled, to be honest. The notion that he was ever going to play football professionally, I think, because he's definitely not going to get an XFL contract. So it's really unfortunate. I mean, we have a Kaepernick doll on the desk here. We show our support through that.
No, we're a little bit tight on time, but there's a good piece by Howard Bryant in the ESPN just kind of charts how this whole thing fell apart, this public tryout, which was kind of, they were kind of promoting a little bit from the get-go anyway, but no, I think it's important to just bring it up because the NFL wanted this to disappear. That was the whole idea behind this, where they were like, oh, we gave him a chance and it didn't work out, so see you later. But it's important that this issue remains at the fore because it's going to be if he's going to be a martyr, at least don't let it be for nothing that he stood up for the cause for the right reasons and it worked out in some capacity.
Yeah, he would have been back in football at this point, Cian. There was an opportunity. Anybody could have brought him in for a workout any Tuesday during the course of the season. Loads of teams had a need for him, and you're kind of looking at what that one Heisman package that the Ravens did, and you think, okay, well, this is the best, most explosive offense in American football at the moment. I'm sure other teams should be looking at that and going, geez, what would we be able to do if we actually had Kaepernick back there as well as our first-choice quarterback? Instead of Taysom Hill, if you had Kaepernick, who could actually throw the ball, that might be an interesting thing. It's never going to happen. We should stop thinking about it and talk about Kaepernick now as an activist as opposed to a footballer.
Yeah, look, this has been talked over and over to death. We've been doing it for years. I will kind of just summarize where I am with it. He would be a top 13, top 12 quarterback starting in this league full time. He would have been that for the last couple of years. That's what he was around that area when he was originally blackballed. The NFL is a company, I guess, an organisation that has branded itself as massive supporters of the military until they were found out that they were making the military pay for all of that supposed support. You have used breast cancer for advertising and not actually paid any money into supporting breast cancer. This is an organisation that will do things like this where you just can't trust anything that comes from them. So when they had this organised workout that like any team in the league can have a workout with Colin Kaepernick right now. Any team in the league could have for the last 3 years. This organised workout was a complete PR thing, a complete sham, and it's a disgrace, to be honest.
Okay, so the games of the weekend. San Francisco at Baltimore is a 6 o'clock kickoff Irish time. The Patriots are at Houston at 1:20. Is there any hope that Houston can turn the Patriots over? I don't really think there is, but anyway, what do you think, Cian?
Oh, absolutely. Have you watched that Patriots offense?
Yeah, I know, but that was when the weather's bad and it's like howling and freezing. They're going to be in a dome. They're going to be grand. No?
Deshaun Watson's going to be in that dome too, and that's the problem. For as much as I kind of am relatively low on Deshaun Watson, I guess, he's going to be able to attack that secondary. He probably get picked off once or twice, but he's also going to create big plays. And the one thing with the Patriots is they go against most teams and they can lock down a cornerback or lock down at least one receiver. You're not locking down DeAndre Hopkins without contributing extra help to whoever's covering him. Stephon Gilmore is an outstanding player. He's not going to shut down DeAndre Hopkins on his own. You're not going to be able to shut down Will Fuller if you're also focusing on DeAndre Hopkins. So Bill Belichick has a big question mark here. I think the big problem, the big reason you would pick the Patriots here is the Texans' offensive line, Deshaun Watson's tendency for taking sacks and creating unnecessary pressure. Outside of that, it's kind of between what wins out, because I don't think the Patriots offensively are going to put up a big score. So if the Texans can get to 21 or 24 points, that might be enough to win the game.
All right, we'll stay tuned. Cian, thanks for joining us from London. You jet setter. Ronan, I wish you well, except
Cheers,
this week. And you've got Lamar on your team, so you don't need it. I do think it's going to be like a fairly straightforward win for the Ravens.
Hopefully, but I do think they'll be seeing each other again in the Super Bowl anyway, Jer. So
that would be good. So I backed 35-1 the 49ers before the season started. Right, that's it for this week's show. We're going to be back again next week with the snap at around about 1 o'clock on OTB Sports Radio. You can listen back to that on the OTB Podcast Network and offtheball.com, where you'll also find some great stuff from throughout the week, including Damien Delaney on the Football Show with some insights, and Josie Mourinho, Johnny Ward's League of Ireland Team of the Decade, and much more besides. See you next week. Good luck.